Hello everyone. Hope you all are fine at your respective places, especially in this hostile situation of COVID-19. Anyway, since we have been studying about 11th standard NCERTs, that is Indian Constitution at Work, and under Indian Constitution at Work, we have already accomplished chapter number 1, that is Constitution, why and how. Aftermath of that, we have shifted upon the second chapter, that is the rights in the Indian Constitution, and of course second chapter has also been started. Under second chapter till now, we have discussed about the different aspects related to the concept of rights and obligations. In the same topic, we have also accomplished or covered, you can say, one of the fundamental rights, namely the right to equality, which have been disseminated across Article 14, 15, 16, 17 and 18. Today, we will be discussing about the right to freedom. Okay, the right to freedom means we will try to have an entire coverage of Article 19, Article 20, Article 21 and of course Article 22. Okay, because Article 19 to 22, they are there to show the reference related to the right to freedom enshrined in the Constitution of India. Fine. So, let's get started. First of all, I am going to provide a brief description of all the 6 fundamental rights, and out of those 6 fundamental rights, since we have accomplished already one of the kinds of fundamental rights, namely the right to equality. So, just by making the reference of right to equality, we will directly have a shift to right to freedom, right? Fine. See, chapter 2. Chapter 2. This chapter is a bit lengthier one, because it not only encompasses the aspects of rights enshrined in the Constitution, but it also throws light upon the concept of obligations, namely the directive principles of state policy given in part 4 vis-a-vis the fundamental duties given in part 4A. Anyway, chapter 2, rights in the Indian Constitution. Rights in the Indian Constitution. Okay. Under the head rights in the Indian Constitution, special emphasis has been given upon the fundamental rights. So, this is the reason why we started making discussion over the topic fundamental rights. And under fundamental rights, as I have already discussed with you, that there are altogether 6 sets of fundamental rights. 6 sets of fundamental rights. One is called the right to equality, the right to equality. Second one is called the right to freedom, the right to freedom. Third one is the right against exploitation, the rights against exploitation. Fourth one is the right to religious freedom, the right to religious freedom. Fifth one is cultural and educational rights, and sixth one is the right to constitutional remedy, right? The right to constitutional remedy. Okay. If you focus upon the different sorts of constitutional provisions dedicated to all these 6 different classes of fundamental rights, you may find the right to equality finds its mention via means of articles 14 to 18. The right to freedom finds its mention via means of articles 19 to 22. Rights against exploitation have been given under article 23 and 24. Article 23 and 24. The right to religious freedom, they find their mention via means of articles 25 to 28. 25 to 28. Cultural and educational rights are given via means of two constitutional provisions in part 3 of the constitution, namely article 29 and 30. And finally, the right to constitutional remedy finds its place in article 32. Okay, article 32. Since we have already discussed about the provisions given under articles 14 to 18 in the form of the right to equality. So, before proceeding upon the second facet, that is the right to freedom in chapter 2, let us have a snapshot round session over the right to equality. Under right to equality, 14 to 18 means article 14, 15, 16, 17 and article 18 are there. As I let you know about the constitutional provisions related to equality given under article 14, and we have discussed that article 14 has two correlated aspects. One is the right to equality before law and other one is the right to equal protection of law. Okay. Under right to equality before law, we have discussed that it is simply meant how to ensure the juridic equality in the country. While the second aspect of article 14 is equal protection of law, and that equal protection of law allows the state to go on the path of observing positive discrimination, and from there only the concept of reservation generates, means via means of the aspect related to equal protection of law enshrined in article 14 of the constitution. The constitution allows the government to go on to formulate some sort of policy which are there to ensure the concept of equality in actual sense by observing positive discrimination. Okay, here positive discrimination is meant by the fact that equal should be treated alike and unequal should not be treated alike. The reason is, if unequal should be treated alike, it means that it will further amount to increase in discrimination or inequality. So, wherever diversity prevails in a society, or especially a country like India, which is basically very diverse in nature, when the diversity comes to the socialization of our nation, when the diversity comes to the cultural aspect of our nation, when the diversity comes to the geographical aspect, the demographic aspect and so on and so forth. So, ours have a deeper degree of diversity, and wherever diversity prevails, it is obvious that equal society, to face a equal society is almost impossible, and wherever unequal society prevails, it is obvious that some of the classes might be highly privileged one, some of the classes might be deprived one. Now, here what is meant by the equality is how to bring all the sections of people or the people residing on different strata on a level playing field, and in order to provide a level playing field to almost all the strata of society, it is obvious that some sort of extra push needs to be provided to the deprived section, and in order to provide that extra push, the Constitution of India, as we have already discussed in chapter number 1, that is the Constitution why and how, allows the state, allows the government to go on observing some sort of discrimination. Discrimination in viewpoint of what? Discrimination in viewpoint of privileged one. Discrimination in favor of deprived one, means deprived should be given extra push so that they might be brought upon the level playing field to which the privileged section already resides. Okay, this is what the interpretation of article 14 as we have discussed already. Under article 15, we have seen that article 15 makes the provision that the state shall not carry out any sort of discrimination amongst its people only on the basis of some of the grounds here there, religion, race, caste, sex or place of birth. Though these grounds are not the absolute grounds, yet it is needed to to the state to take care of these points of discrimination in due course of making or devising any policy in favor of public. Okay. This is what given under Article 15. Under Article 16 makes us know about the fact that the state shall not make any sort of discrimination in matters of public employment. When it comes to the issues related to equality of opportunity in respect of public employment, the state shall not make any sort of discrimination amongst its citizens only on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex or place of birth. This is what we saw in case of Article 16. And Article 17 of Part 3 of Indian Constitution is all about how to eradicate all forms of untouchability from our country. Okay. This is what given under Article 17. Article 18 is all about how to abolish the titles. And see, whatever the provisions were mentioned via means of Article 15, 16, 17 or 18, and of course, you can also inculcate Article 14, though Article 14 directly does not prescribe any way out, that in what manner state will go on so that it could lead upon the goal of how to achieve the equality. It simply defines the concept of equality in Indian scenario. Means Article 14 simply provides us the meaning of equality in Indian context. What is meant by equality under Indian circumstances. While 15, 16, 17 and 18, they are basically prescribing provisions to observe equality. For example, Article 15 subscribes the state what to do, what not to do in order to face the equality. Again, Article 16 subscribes the state what the state should do or not to do in order to face the very concept of equality. Article 17 also makes the same sense. Article 18 also makes the same sense. Okay. So, these are the things related to right to equality under Part 3 of Indian Constitution. So, dear students, today we are going to have a look upon one more fundamental rights, that is what is meant by the right to freedom. So, I am going to omit all such things, and now our focus should be simply concentrated upon the particular piece of right, that is the right to freedom. Yes. The right to freedom. See, the right to freedom also incorporates a set of democratic rights. Okay, a set of democratic rights including the right to freedom of speech and expression. Anyway, right now we are talking about the right to freedom in holistic manner. See, the things about the right to freedom are given under Part 3 of Indian Constitution via means of some constitutional provisions which are like whatever I am going to show you on this whiteboard. First one is a kind of right to freedom has been mentioned under Article 19. Okay. And another kind of right to freedom has been mentioned under Article 20. Okay. Means in holistic way, or you can say in generalized way, Article 19, 20, 21 and 22 and 22. They all are there to uphold the very degree of right to freedom given in Indian Constitution. Here the question is, if they all are meant for ensuring right to freedom, it means that the right to freedom same topic has been discussed via means of different provisions. It means that the right to freedom has many aspects. The right to freedom has many aspects. Some aspects have been mentioned or described via means of Article 19. Some other aspects have been defined via means of Article 20. Some other aspects are again defined via means of Article 21 and similarly by Article 22. So, whatever the provisions you find which are disseminated across these constitutional provisions, they are largely meant to uphold the concept of right to freedom under Indian Constitution. Hope you might be getting me. See, one by one. What kind of right to freedom given under Article 19? So, let's have a look upon Article 19 first, and accordingly we will be discussing Article 20, Article 21 as well as Article 22. Article 19. See, whatever the rights related to freedom which have been given under Article 19, they are only allowed for citizens and not for non-citizens. Make this point clear. They are not open for all. They are simply restricted to the citizens of India. Fine. Now the question is, actually, what are those points or what are those rights which have been given under Article 19? See, Article 19 makes the provision of a set of 6 democratic rights. Are you getting me? A set of 6 democratic rights. Listen me again. It is Article 19 which makes us know about the fact that what's about the democratic rights under the Constitution of India. Article 19 says, don't worry, there are altogether 6 democratic rights which find their mention under the Constitution of India, and these 6 democratic rights are: first one is the right to freedom of speech and expression. The right to freedom of speech and expression. Second one is the right to assemble peacefully and without arms. It is also one of the democratic rights. Third one is the right to make association. Means if you are a citizen of India, you are free to enjoy these rights, But remember, since the fundamental rights itself or themselves are not the absolute rights, so some sorts of reasonable restrictions might be incurred upon your right to freedom. Okay, we will talk about that. Fourth democratic right is the right to move freely throughout the country. What's about the fifth democratic right? The right to reside and settle anywhere throughout the country. Okay, the right to reside and settle anywhere throughout the country. The moment we start making, interpretation of all these 6 democratic rights, we will discuss them in very minuscule manner, very minutely, wherein I will make you know what is meant by to reside and what is meant by to settle whatever we given here. Anyway, another kind of democratic right is the right to evocation. The right to evocation. Don't worry, I will tell you what is meant by evocation. Evocation means to choose one's profession according to one's desire or one's wishes. Anyway, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are the 6 democratic rights given under Article 19. So, see, the nitty-gritty of Article 19 is it talks about the democratic rights. Okay, and whenever you move a bit closer to the things given under Article 19, you will find the different democratic rights in the displayed manner, whatever being displayed in front of you. See, all these democratic rights have been mentioned via means of different clauses under Article 19. Okay. See. See one thing. Whatever the democratic rights you are finding here, they are given in the form of Article 19 Clause 1. Okay, because if you focus upon Article 19 in its entirety, it talks about 2 different aspects of rights. First aspect is how the rights be provided to you, and second aspect is how you can enjoy those rights. Means the provisions related to restrictions, they are also given under Article 19 in the form of different clauses. Okay, so it is Article 19 Clause 1. Please be specific. See, Article 19 in its entirety, it talks about, no doubt, these set of democratic rights, and at the same time Article 19 also talks about in what manner these democratic rights need to be enjoyed. Means what are the grounds of restrictions? What are the grounds of restrictions in due course of enjoying these rights? Means those grounds which are restricting to enjoy these rights, you should take care of that. Anyway, so in general you can say Article 19 provides us the set of 6 democratic rights, but in actuality it is Article 19 Clause 1 which provides us these 6 different kinds of democratic rights. And see, these different kinds of democratic rights were given via means of different sub-clauses. For example, see, under Article 19 Clause 1, you can find the right to freedom of speech and expression. Under Article 19 Clause 1, you can again find the right to assemble peacefully and without arms. Again, under Article 19 Clause 1, there is a mention of the right to make association. Again, under Article 19 Clause 1, you find the mention of the right to move freely throughout the country. Again, under Article 19 Clause 1, you find the mention of the right to reside and settle anywhere throughout the country. Again, under Article 19 Clause 1, you will find the concept related to right to evocation. But see, being specific, the right to freedom of speech and expression, you find it is given under Article 19 Clause 1 subclause A. Article 19 Clause 1 subclause A. Under this constitutional provision, the right to freedom of speech and expression finds its place. Okay. What's about the right to assemble peacefully and without arms? It is given under Article 19 Clause 1 subclause B. Okay. What's about the right to make association? It is given under Article 19 Clause 1 subclause C. Okay. What's about the right to move freely throughout the country? It is given under Article 19(1) D. What's about the right to reside and settle anywhere throughout the country? This provision finds its place under which subclause of Article 19 Clause 1? It is given under Article 19 Clause 1 subclass E. And what's about the right to avocation? Remember, it is given under Article 19 class 1 subclass G, not F, because subclass F has been already repealed, it has been abrogated. The moment when we observed a change in the right to possess you can say it is related to basically the right to capital wealth, the right to possess wealth, and it has been abrogated earlier. I hope you might be knowing that there were altogether 7 fundamental rights, including the right to property. Article 19 class 1 subclass F was related to, it was somehow related to right to property. So when we observed a change by a means of Constitutional Amendment Act in right to property, we also witnessed an alteration or change in Article 19 class 1 subclass F. So at present, under Indian Constitution, we find no such subclass, that is Article 19 class 1 subclass F. It is not available right now. So these are the different sets of democratic rights which have been talked about via means of Article 19 class 1. Okay, and see Article 19 clause 2, clause 3, clause 4, clause 5, clause 6, they simply makes the provision of how to incur restrictions over these respective democratic rights. Is it okay? And see, the grounds of restrictions were largely based upon some points like for say under Article 19 1A, means Article 19 class 1 subclass A, it is obvious that you have been provided with the right to freedom of speech and expression. But enjoying right to freedom of speech and expression does not mean that it is made free from any sort of restriction. No, reasonable restrictions might be incurred upon, reasonable restrictions might be imposed, and that reasonable restrictions are referred to as when it comes to the issues related to how to uphold the unity and integrity of the nation, how to uphold the sovereignty of the nation, how to maintain the public order, morality, decency, on such grounds these democratic rights might be restricted. And if these democratic rights are not coming on the way of those points of restriction, then there is no need to get worried. You are free to enjoy all these democratic rights. And see, all sorts of the given democratic rights, they are only restricted to the citizens of India. And see, when it comes to especially the right to freedom of speech and expression, because it provides us a set of composite rights, and it is one of the articles, I mean, in holistic manner you can say it is Article 19, which is one of the articles of Indian Constitution, which has undergone the widest possible interpretations, in the hands of judiciary. So it gives birth to so many incurred rights. And some other articles are also there, like when we come to article number 21, article 21 has also undergone a lot many interpretations in the hands of judiciary, and article 21 too gives birth to so many incurred rights, or you can say not incurred, but rather you can say inferred rights, means that rights which have been derived by some sort of already existed fundamental one. If you keep article 19 as a fundamental one, then you can derive so many rights or extract so many rights out of article 19. Similarly, the judiciary has extracted or derived so many incurred rights or inferred rights, you can say, or extracted rights, you can say, out of article number 21. So they are some of the very important constitutional provision of part 3 of the Constitution. In one hand, they talk about some sort of specific rights in their own ambit, and apart from that, so many extracted kinds of rights have been derived from these constitutional provisions. This is the reason why I told you that Article 19 is one of those kinds of fundamental rights which have undergone many times of interpretation, a lot of interpretation via Supreme Court of India. Means Supreme Court of India has made a number of interpretation over the fundamental right given under Article 19. So let's have a brief discussion over all these 6 democratic rights one by one. First of all, let's have a look upon the right to freedom of speech and expression. See, under the right to freedom of speech and expression, you are allowed to express yourself through any conceivable medium. Here conceivable medium means either via means of writing anything you can express yourself, you can express yourself through words of mouth, you can express yourself via means of hoardings, banners, signboards, etc., etc. They are basically the conceivable medium to be followed by an individual in order to enjoy his or her right to freedom of speech and expression. As I told you just now, that this is one of the provisions of Indian Constitution which has undergone the widest possible interpretations in the hand of judiciary. So the judiciary, in due course of providing an interpretation over the right to freedom of speech and expression given under Article 19 clause 1 subclause A, the judiciary says, see, to observe silence can also be considered as the individual's right to freedom of speech and expression. Means you are free either to express yourself or to observe a mere silence, no problem. Observing a silence is also a kind of freedom of speech and expression. To take part in sports related activities or not to take part in sporting activities, that might also be considered as the individual's right to freedom of speech and expression. This is one of the interpretations made by Honorable Supreme Court of India regarding the right to freedom of speech and expression. Are you getting my point or not? Suppose the source of information is there. Individuals cannot be restricted to have an access to that source of information, no matter whether the source of information is external or internal one. It's basically the interpretation made by the Supreme Court regarding the right to freedom of speech and expression. And this is how the right to information in year 2005 was observed by Indian Parliament during the regime of UPA 1, during the reign of Manmohan Singh led UPA 1 government. The roots of RTI can be traced to Article 19 clause 1 subclause A. Freedom to possess different types of ideas can also be referred to as the right to freedom of speech and expression in the opinion of Supreme Court of India. And of course, that opinion must also be followed by we the people of India. Why? You can make the provision, you can make the interpretation of one of the constitutional provisions in your own way, but that does not mean that whatever the interpretation be provided by you shall be made binding upon the others. No. I can also make interpretation, but the interpretation made by me shall not be binding upon you to follow. But remember, if the Supreme Court makes any interpretation over the constitutional provisions, that is called the final interpretation, and that must be binding upon the individuals. So whatever we are discussing right now, more precisely you can say, whatever we are discussing about the interpretational aspects over the right to freedom of speech and expression under Article 19 clause 1 subclause A by the Supreme Court, don't you think it must be obligatory to follow for all of us? And it is Supreme Court of India only which makes us know about the fact that you are free to possess, you are free to devise, you are free to profess any kind of idea in your inner cognition. Similarly, you can also devise, you can also generate a kind of political idea in your mind. And to develop a political idea in an individual's inner cognition, don't you think it might also be culminated on the ground? Let us consider that I am going to design a particular kind of political theory in my mind, since I am a citizen of India and the Constitution of India provides me the right to freedom of speech and expression. And under the ambit of right to freedom of speech and expression, I am allowed to devise any kind of ideology. So, I have developed a political ideology. I am providing, a fuel to that political ideology. And after some time, I have decided to provide a shape to the political ideology I have already developed in my inner cognition. I may go on to formulate a political party. And not only me, all the individuals, all the citizens of India are allowed to enjoy the right to freedom of speech and expression. So, the people similar to me, they can also devise a distinct kind of political ideology, and they might give birth to that political ideology into the form of a political party. In this way, don't you think there is always a possibility of the existence of multi-party political system in a country? Ours have no doubt multi-party political system. You see the Congress I, you see the BJP, you see the CPI-M, you see the CPI-ML, you see the TDP, you see the TMC, RJD, SP, BSP, so many political parties are there. And how it was made possible for the existence of all such diverse political parties? The reason is simple. The reason is Indian Constitution itself allows the people of India to devise different political parties based on different political ideologies shaped in the inner cognition of different people. So, prevalence of multi-party political system is an indicative of prevalence of democracy. It is an indicative of the fact that the people of the country have been assigned with requisite degree of democratic rights. And following the line of democratic rights, you can also say the people have been given the required degree of the right to freedom of speech and expression. So, whatever the multi-party democracy you find in India, that can simply be connected with the right to freedom of speech and expression given under Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause A. See how broader interpretation Article 19(1)(a) possesses. I hope now you would have understood what is meant by one of the democratic rights, namely the right to freedom of speech and expression. When we switch over upon the second tier of our preparation, that is the actual syllabus of UPSC CSE, we will extend this discussion still up to a greater length. But for the time being, I am restricting myself, going on having a discussion upon the right to freedom of speech and expression. So, let us have a look upon one other democratic right, and that is the right to assemble peacefully and without arms. Without arms means, you cannot carry any instrument which can physically harm the other individual, like sword, gun, pistol, etc. Means bare arms you are allowed to assemble anywhere. Assemble means Constitution of India, under the ambit of one of the democratic rights, allows the people of India to assemble peacefully. You can have an assembly of the people. The only point to be noted in this regard is that the only point which needs to be taken care of is the assembly must be peaceful one and without arms. You can gather anywhere, you can collect anywhere in order to make certain decision, in order to make certain planning, no problem. but that assemblies, that meeting won't be furious one. People must not possess any arms. This is what given under Article 19 class 1 subclass B. Third one is the right to make association. The right to make association. See, under the concept of making association, people are allowed, to make political association, to make social association, to make cultural association, to make trade unions, no problem. But one thing which needs to remember is armed forces personnel means the people in uniform, or the people in administration, they are not allowed to make any trade union or political union. Suppose in future, hopefully, you will be an integral part of Indian bureaucracy or Indian administration. Once you become the part of administrative system, the right to make association would not be allowed to you. Means you will be deprived of enjoying that right to make association. Okay. So, you can say the personnels of armed forces, paramilitary forces, police personnels, they are not allowed to make association. Any kind of political association, rather you can say. Under Article 19 class 1 subclass D, it is given about the right to move freely throughout the country. Since you are the citizen of India, there is no restriction upon you to move anywhere across the country. But see here, no restriction does not dissipate the concept of reasonable restriction. Reasonable restrictions might be imposed upon you, and reasonable restrictions in what context? In the context of maintaining the unity and integrity of the country, in the context of upholding the sovereign behavior of our nation or rather of our country. Reasonable restrictions means in order to maintain public order, decency in society, morality amongst the people. So, if such things are not undermined in your uses of right to move freely throughout the country, no one is going to restrict you, state is not going to restrict you from moving throughout the country. So, you can move anywhere across the country provided public order, morality, decency, they are not being undermined, sovereignty, unity and integrity of the country, they are not being undermined, provided the interest of scheduled tribes, they are not going to be undermined. If they are going to be undermined in that situation, your right to move freely throughout the country might be checkmated, might be restricted. Okay. Fifth democratic right is the right to reside and settle anywhere throughout the country. See, what is meant by reside, to reside? What is meant by to settle? See, resides gives the way towards residence and settle provides a way towards settlement. Suppose you are living at a particular place for a temporary period of time, then that place can be referred to as your residence and you will be treated as a mere resident of that residence. But if you have decided to live at a particular place on permanent basis, then that permanent resident would be called as your settlement and you are simply referred to as a settler. Is it okay? This is what the difference between to reside and to settle. So, under Article 19 class 1 in the form of subclass E, the citizens of India are allowed to either live temporarily or permanently at any place of his or her choice throughout the country, and it has been corroborated as one of the democratic rights. Okay. So, this is all about Article 19 class 1 subclass E. If you go on to have a look upon Article 19 class 1 subclass G, it provides you again a kind of democratic right, and that right is related to freedom of avocation. Avocation means here an individual is made free to choose his or her occupation according to his or her desires or choices. But again, reasonable restrictions might be subjected. Here state can makes the provision regarding the eligibility criteria for a particular occupation. State can decide over some sorts of norms related to your business. So, you need to be ready to follow the regulations or norms set out by the state. Following those regulations properly, those norms properly, nobody is going to restrict you to choose your own avocation, to choose your own occupation. So, this is all about the interpretation of Article 19, more precisely you can say Article 19 clause 1. Other clauses of Article 19, that is 2, 3, 4 etc., we will discuss it elaborately once we switch over upon the actual syllabus. But for the time being, if you can remember all such things, I think it would be more than sufficient for you, at this particular stage of NCERT program. Is it okay to all of you? Fine. Now, we are going to have a look upon Article number 20. It is again one of the rights related to freedom. Okay. And one thing more, why I told you that Article 19 clause 1 provides a set of 6 democratic rights. The reason is simple. Since the forefathers of Indian Constitution had opted for moving upon the path of democracy in our country, we are a democratic state. So, in order to strengthen the values of democracy, it was thought, or it was decided over the forefathers of the Constitution, that if some sorts of democratic rights be incurred upon the individuals, it would be better enough to strengthen the health of democracy. So, in order to strengthen the health of democracy, strengthen the degree of democracy in our country, the people should be provided with some sort of democratic rights, and accordingly it was decided over by the constitution makers to provide a set of these 6 democratic rights. Is it okay? And out of these 6 democratic rights, the first and foremost one is the right to freedom of speech and expression. It is taken high-handedly as comparison to the remaining kinds of democratic rights. Is it okay? Fine. Now, let us have a look upon Article number 20.